Welcome to an Old In masterclass on banknote checking and UV markings. First, let's talk about what's common to all of them. They all have watermarks which can only be seen by holding the notes up to normal light. All have a metallic emblem on them, with First Trust Bank and Bank of England and Clydesdale banknotes also having hologram images. A hologram will change between two images as you tilt the note backwards and forwards, or have a 3D look to them. They all have a foil strip in them, sandwiched between the paper layers, which, in all but the Bank of Ireland notes and Ulster Bank notes, shows as a dashed strip on the surface and looks solid when held to the light. Now let's look at the UV security symbols on each note. Here they all are. You can see on the local and Scottish notes the UV barcodes which are specific to the bank. The UV markings are strongest on one side. In addition to the barcodes on the First Trust Bank notes, they also have a speckling effect, which you can see also on the Bank of England notes. Let's have a closer look at the UV markings on the £50 Bank of England note. Notice the harlequin design on the 50 and the speckling throughout the note. Here we have the Bank of England £20 note. You get the same harlequin image of the £20 note and the speckling throughout the note on both sides. You'll also see some markings there on the foil strip. Now let's look at the First Trust Bank £20 note. You'll see the same speckling that we saw in the Bank of England notes, but also you will see these barcodes which are very common in Northern Ireland and Scottish notes. Now if we look at the Danske Bank notes, you'll see those barcodes again, very familiar for the Northern Ireland currencies, only prevalent on one side. There are elements, very subtle, of UV markings on the B side of the note, the non-face side, but a lot of notes in Northern Ireland don't have a particularly clear face side to the note, so it's always worth checking, just quickly flipping over until you get a very strong UV indication. We'll have a look at the Bank of Ireland note here. You can see again the strong barcoding and another patch down here which ties into the graphics on the note itself. Here we have an Ulster Bank £20 note. You'll see two things, the famous barcodes now, and you'll also see that the numbering appears in an orange colour on this note. And you'll see on the B side some very strong markings here on the Ulster Bank notes. So good clear symbols on both sides of the Ulster Bank note. We will occasionally be dealing with Scottish bank notes, and I would say these are potentially a higher risk in Northern Ireland because people will be less familiar with the currency. So a forger or someone trying to pass off forged notes is more likely to do them in a country where they're accepted but they're not the normal currency. So if we take a look, we do have very strong bar markings on here and also the CB logo on here for Clydesdale Bank. You'll see some lighter marking there on the non-face side of this note with a CB very faintly reversed in the logo there. Another thing that the UV note checker can do for you is check authenticity of bank cards. It won't tell you whether they're stolen or not, but it will show up markings to let you know that the cards are actual genuine cards from the Visa or MasterCard company. If you take a look at MasterCard first, you will see the M and the C showing up brightly there. And then if we take a look at the Visa, you will see the V sign over the top of the Visa logo on the card. And there we have the UV note checker. We would ask that because the bulb lights up instantly, that it's just switched on for use when you're checking the note, and then switched off immediately after. The other tool you may think of using is a UV marker pen. What you can do is if you just put a line on these notes, you'll see that on the fake note, this one at the bottom, the Bank of England 20, that there's a greasy mark appears. That's because this is uncoated and the ink will soak into the paper. If you then use your UV light on these, you can see the marks that I've put onto the top banknote, but as the second one is uncoated, it sinks in and the marks disappear. You can see them very faintly on there, but they're not as pronounced as they are in a proper banknote. The only reason why I leave this one to last is that these pens are quite often found like this with the top off them. You don't know how long they're drying out and once they've dried out they won't leave a mark on the banknote, and therefore it'll leave a false impression that when you put a line on a fake note you won't see the greasiness of the ink going on, and that's simply because the pen is dried out. So it would be my least preferential way of checking a note, but always use the UV machine.